mind is the origin of all power. If you cannot master it, the body will only follow confusion, hesitation, and fear. True discipline begins not with training the hands or the feet, but with training the mind to be still, to observe without judgment, and to act without distraction. Too many people chase strength in the physical realm, thinking that muscles or speed define power, yet these are only tools. The real strength, the strength that cannot be shaken, arises when the mind is calm, focused, and fully present. When your thoughts are scattered, even the simplest task becomes difficult, and the smallest challenge becomes insurmountable. But when you cultivate clarity, you see obstacles not as threats but as opportunities. You move through life with awareness, choosing each action deliberately. To master your mind, you must first learn to recognize it as it is, full of impulses, fears, doubts, and fleeting desires. Observe them without attachment. Do not let the waves of thought control you. Become the observer, the still point from which action flows effortlessly. Discipline is not a matter of forcing yourself to obey some rigid rule or punishing yourself for weakness. It is the cultivation of awareness, of consistency, of habit, until the mind naturally aligns with purpose. When your mind is anchored, fear loses its power, distraction loses its hold. Even when chaos surrounds you, your spirit remains steady. Imagine water, flowing yet unwavering in its essence, moving around stones, over obstacles, without losing direction. This is the way a disciplined mind functions. It adapts, it responds, it acts without hesitation, yet it is never reactive in a way that destabilizes the self. To be unshakable, you must recognize that control begins internally. External circumstances may test you, but they do not define you unless you allow them. Every thought you nurture, every focus you choose, becomes the foundation of your inner strength. Strength without clarity is like a flame flickering in the wind. It may shine briefly, but it cannot endure. Clarity of mind is the steady flame, the compass that guides every action with precision and purpose. Begin each day by grounding yourself in awareness. Notice your breath, your posture, your thoughts. Let the noise of the world fade into the background and let the voice of your true self emerge. In this quiet center, you will find that discipline is not a struggle. It is the natural alignment of thought, intention, and action. When the mind is mastered, the body and spirit follow, moving as one, unshaken by fear, by doubt, or by the inevitable storms of life. Focus becomes effortless when the mind is trained, and action becomes inevitable. The unshakable life is not born of muscle or willpower alone, but of a mind that is present, disciplined, and free. When the mind rules without fear, nothing can move you. Simplicity is the essence of true strength. Many people believe that power is found in complexity, in doing more, in mastering many techniques, in piling effort upon effort. But this is a misconception. Complexity creates confusion, hesitation, and wasted energy. Real power lies in the ability to strip away what is unnecessary, to see clearly, and to act with precision. Every extra movement, every superfluous thought, every distraction dilutes strength. To be unshakable, you must learn to embrace simplicity, to reduce your life, your actions, and your mind to what is essential. Simplicity does not mean weakness or lack of skill. On the contrary, it requires immense understanding and mastery. When you truly understand the essence of any task, any challenge, you see the most direct path, the most efficient way, and you act without hesitation. Complexity often hides ignorance. People think that the more complicated a system, the stronger it must be. Yet a truly powerful action is one that is direct, effective, and without waste. Observe nature. Water flows around obstacles effortlessly. A tree grows with perfect balance and economy. The wind moves freely and strikes with clarity. All of this is simplicity, yet all of this is strength. To live simply is to focus on the essentials. It is to choose deliberately where your energy goes and where it does not. Every habit you form, every skill you cultivate, should serve a purpose. If it does not, it becomes a burden, a distraction, a weight that prevents you from being unshakable. Learn to ask yourself continually, is this necessary? Is this essential? Does this move me closer to clarity, to purpose, to strength? In answering these questions honestly, you free yourself from the noise of life and align yourself with your true power. Simplicity also applies to thought. The mind often complicates life by chasing illusions, imagining outcomes, or dwelling on what cannot be controlled. When you clear the clutter of unnecessary thought, the mind becomes a calm, focused instrument. Decisions become immediate, actions become effortless, and fear loses its grip. Complexity in thought clouds judgment. Simplicity illuminates it. Acting with simplicity does not mean avoiding effort or avoiding learning. It means understanding deeply so that effort is applied in the right place, in the right way, at the right time. It means responding to challenges with precision, using only what is necessary without waste, without hesitation. There is elegance in simplicity, and there is unstoppable power in it. When you embrace simplicity in all things, action, thought, life, you discover a strength that is quiet, fluid, and unshakable. The world may throw chaos in your path, but when your mind and actions are clear, you move through it effortlessly. True power is simple. Complexity is illusion. Effort alone does not create unshakable strength. Many people believe that bursts of energy, moments of intense focus, or dramatic displays of willpower define true discipline. Yet intensity without consistency is fleeting, like a flame that burns brightly for a moment and then fades into darkness. Real strength, the kind that cannot be shaken, grows slowly, steadily, through persistence and repeated action. It is the accumulation of small, deliberate choices made day after day, habit after habit, that builds a foundation no storm can topple. Consistency is not glamorous. It does not demand applause or recognition. It is the quiet rhythm of showing up, of committing to the practice, even when desire falters. Even when the mind resists. It is waking early when the body wants to rest, training when the spirit feels tired, learning when the world distracts you. Each small act, repeated without fail, forms a chain of resilience. Over time, these chains become unbreakable, and the discipline that once seemed laborious becomes effortless. Many fail because they confuse sporadic effort with true persistence. A sudden surge of energy may produce impressive results for a moment, but it cannot replace the slow, steady cultivation of skill, strength, and character. Think of a river carving through rock, not through sudden force, but through persistent, patient flow. Each drop of water seems insignificant on its own, yet over time it shapes mountains and valleys. The same principle applies to life. Every discipline choice, no matter how small, contributes to an unshakable inner foundation. Consistency also trains the mind. When you commit to steady effort, your mind learns patience, focus, and the ability to endure. It becomes familiar with discomfort and begins to recognize that temporary struggle is not failure, but a necessary part of growth. Fear, doubt, and hesitation lose their power because you have proven to yourself day after day that persistence leads to mastery. This internal proof becomes unshakable confidence. It is not enough to be busy. The actions must be deliberate and aligned with purpose. Consistency without direction is mechanical and empty. When each effort is guided by understanding, the repetition itself becomes a teacher. It reveals patterns, weaknesses, and opportunities for refinement. It allows you to adapt, to grow, and to strengthen without relying on external validation. The essence of unshakable discipline lies in this quiet, continuous commitment. You do not need to rush or force greatness in dramatic bursts. You need only to show up again and again with intention, with awareness, with steady hands and a focused mind. The power built this way is invisible to the impatient eye, yet it is the power that endures, that flows through every challenge, and that cannot be shaken by circumstance. Consistency, more than intensity, is the seed of true strength. To live unshakable, you must learn to release attachment to outcomes. Too often, people measure their effort, their worth, and their happiness by results. They invest energy in worrying about success, fearing failure, or seeking approval, and in doing so, they become fragile. When the mind clings to outcomes, it loses its freedom. Every obstacle becomes a threat, every mistake a catastrophe, and every uncertainty a source of anxiety. True discipline, true inner strength, comes when you focus on the process, on the work itself, rather than the applause or recognition it may bring. Detachment does not mean indifference. It does not mean abandoning ambition or effort. On the contrary, it allows effort to flow more naturally and with greater clarity. When you act without being bound to a specific result, your energy is liberated. You move decisively, with purpose and without fear. You can take risks, explore creativity, and confront challenges because the mind is free from the weight of expectation. The process itself becomes the teacher, the joy, and the reward. Attachment to outcomes clouds judgment. When you are consumed by the desire for a certain result, you react to circumstances rather than responding with awareness. You become defensive, anxious, and reactive. You might push too hard, overthink, or lose sight of what truly matters. But when the mind is focused on effort, on practice, on mastery, you act from a place of clarity. Your decisions are not dictated by fear or hope. They emerge naturally from understanding and presence. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity when you are detached from outcomes. Failure is no longer a curse, but a lesson. And criticism is no longer a wound, but information. Success is no longer a burden, but a natural consequence of disciplined effort. When the mind is free from attachment, it remains steady, like a mountain in the midst of a storm. The world may shift, chaos may rise, yet the foundation of inner strength is unmovable. Detachment also fosters resilience. Life is unpredictable, and circumstances often change beyond our control. By focusing on what you can do, your effort, your preparation, your choices, you gain mastery over yourself. This mastery is unshakable because it is rooted in action, not in fragile expectations. When you release the outcome, you reclaim your power. You are no longer at the mercy of fortune, opinion, or chance. To practice this, immerse yourself fully in each moment. Commit to the task before you with precision and presence without calculating the reward. Celebrate the effort, not the result. Learn from every step, whether it leads to success or failure. In this way, discipline becomes effortless, strength becomes natural, and the mind becomes unshakable. Focus on what you can control and let the rest unfold. Rigidity is the enemy of strength. When the mind or body becomes stiff, inflexible, or overly attached to a single way of thinking, it is easily broken by forces beyond its control. True unshakable power does not resist change with brute force. It adapts, it flows, and it transforms challenges into opportunities. To be unshakable, you must learn to move like water. Water does not fight. It yields, it flows, it shapes itself to every circumstance, yet in its yielding, it becomes unstoppable. Mountains crumble, obstacles are bypassed, and resistance dissolves before it, not through aggression, but through adaptability. Being like water requires awareness and sensitivity. It is not a passive surrender, but an active engagement with reality. You observe, you respond, and you adjust without losing your essence. When confronted with adversity, the rigid mind resists, struggles, and fractures. The flexible mind, on the other hand, bends, absorbs, and redirects energy effortlessly. Life is full of unexpected circumstances, failures, surprises, setbacks. If you cling rigidly to expectations or methods, these events shake you. But if you remain fluid, you find a path through every obstacle, a solution in every difficulty, and calm within every storm. Adaptability also means letting go of ego. Often, we insist on being right, on proving ourselves, on following a fixed plan. This attachment breeds tension and fear. Water does not concern itself with being right. It only moves in harmony with the current. Similarly, when you focus on alignment with reality rather than your own rigid notions, you act with clarity and precision. Your energy is not wasted on resistance but channeled into purposeful action. The unshakable mind does not fight life. It flows through it, shaping circumstances instead of being shaped by them. Flexibility applies not only to action, but also to thought and emotion. Emotions arise like waves, sometimes violent, sometimes gentle. When you cling to them or attempt to suppress them, they gain strength over you. When you acknowledge, understand, and allow them to flow, you maintain control. Thoughts, too, must move freely. Clinging to rigid beliefs blinds you to new opportunities, limits growth, and invites stagnation. Flowing thought sees possibilities where rigidity sees walls, and adapts strategies where rigidity fails. Discipline itself becomes effortless when it is fluid. A mind fixed on dogma struggles against reality, while a mind aligned with principles, yet open to adaptation, responds naturally, creatively, and effectively. Strength, in this sense, is not brute force, but intelligent flexibility. You do not conquer obstacles through rigidity. You move around them, through them, or over them. To cultivate this, practice yielding without losing essence, observing without clinging, and responding without resistance. In this way, every challenge becomes an opportunity, and every change becomes a step forward. Strength that is unshakable is strength that flows. To be unshakable, you must first know yourself. True strength is not measured by how well you defeat others, or by how much you can endure externally, but by how deeply you understand your own mind, your own tendencies, your own weaknesses. Most people go through life unaware of the subtle forces that drive them: fear, pride, desire, doubt. And these forces control them without their knowing. Self-knowledge is the armor that cannot be pierced, the foundation of discipline that no storm can shake. When you illuminate your own blind spots, you strip power away from what would otherwise destabilize you. Self-knowledge begins with honest observation. You must look at yourself without flinching, without excuse, without justification. Examine your impulses, your reactions, your habits, and your fears. Recognize what motivates you and what holds you back. This process is uncomfortable because it requires confronting parts of yourself you may wish to ignore, but discomfort is necessary for growth. Every weakness acknowledged becomes a point of strength. Every fear faced becomes a step toward freedom. When you understand your mind fully, you gain mastery over it. You are no longer moved unconsciously by circumstance or by the judgments of others. Understanding yourself also means embracing your contradictions. Strength is not found in pretending to be perfect or in masking vulnerability. Real power comes from accepting who you are, with your limits and your potential, and working from that place of truth. When you stop resisting your own nature, you act with clarity and purpose. You do not waste energy denying reality. You channel it into action that is precise, effective, and aligned with who you truly are. Self-knowledge gives you perspective. It allows you to see challenges not as personal attacks or threats, but as opportunities to test and refine your understanding of yourself. When you know your tendencies, you can anticipate where you might falter, where you might react unconsciously, and you can intervene with awareness. This transforms vulnerability into power, uncertainty into preparation, and fear into presence. The more you know yourself, the less the world can move you, because the ground beneath your feet is not external. It is internal, solid, and unshakable. To cultivate this, spend time in reflection, in observation, and in honest dialogue with yourself. Test yourself, confront your limitations, and seek clarity in solitude. Practice awareness in every moment, noticing when emotion or habit guides you rather than intention. This practice is not a task to be completed, but a way of living. It is continuous, evolving, and infinitely rewarding. The unshakable are not those who deny their flaws, but those who illuminate them, who understand them, and who act from this foundation of self-knowledge. It is a discipline that cannot be stolen or diminished because it resides entirely within. When you know yourself completely, nothing outside can shake you. Emotions are powerful forces, yet most people allow them to control their lives. Anger flares, fear paralyzes, desire distracts, and before long, the mind is in turmoil. To be unshakable, you must learn to feel deeply without being overwhelmed. This is not suppression, it is awareness. To control the heart is not to close it, but to understand it, to observe the currents of emotion without losing balance or clarity. When you feel without turmoil, you act from strength rather than reaction, and your power becomes effortless. The unshakable heart knows that emotion is information, not instruction. Anger, for instance, is a signal of boundaries crossed or injustice perceived. Fear is a warning, not a command to retreat. Desire points to what is valued, not to what must be chased blindly. When you treat emotion as guidance rather than as a master, you remain centered. You respond to circumstances consciously, with precision, rather than reacting blindly and being swept away. Every emotion can teach you something about yourself if you are willing to observe it without attachment. Learning to act without being dominated by emotion requires practice. The mind must be trained to pause, to breathe, and to create space between stimulus and reaction. In that space, clarity emerges. In that clarity, discipline and intention align. When the mind and heart work together, action becomes effortless. You do not fight emotion, you move through it. Like a river encountering a boulder, you flow around it without losing direction. Your emotions inform your movement, but they do not dictate it. This mastery over emotion extends to relationships, challenges, and every interaction in life. When confronted with anger or criticism, the unshakable remain calm, responding with awareness rather than defensiveness. When faced with fear, they move forward, guided by understanding rather than panic. When desire arises, it is acknowledged and balanced, not allowed to drive impulsive choices. In every case, the key is not suppression, but conscious engagement. Emotion becomes a tool, not a chain. Equally important is the cultivation of joy, gratitude, and peace. The unshakable do not merely manage negative emotions. They cultivate positive ones deliberately. Happiness, contentment, and love are practices as much as discipline, and they strengthen the mind against the turbulence of external circumstance. A heart trained to experience fully, yet anchored in awareness, becomes a source of resilience and effortless power. To practice this, observe your emotional responses daily. Notice where you react unconsciously and where you respond consciously. Learn to feel fully, yet remain centered. Let emotions move through you without fracturing your spirit. In this way, the heart becomes steady, the mind sharp, and the body aligned. A mind that feels without being shaken is a mind that cannot be defeated. Discipline is not something you switch on for performance or show to others. It is the way you exist in every moment. To be unshakable, you must live the principles you value, not merely speak them or admire them from a distance. Words alone cannot create strength. Actions, habits, and alignment with truth are what build resilience and power that cannot be shaken. Every choice you make, every movement you perform, becomes an expression of your inner discipline. When living in alignment with your highest truths, Life itself becomes effortless, and challenges no longer disturb your balance. Many people think discipline is a matter of rigid schedules, harsh routines, or external approval. These things are superficial. Real discipline emerges when principle informs behavior naturally. It is reflected in the way you carry yourself, the decisions you make, the way you treat others, and the clarity with which you pursue your purpose. It is visible in the small, often unseen acts, the consistency of effort, and the integrity of your actions when no one is watching. This is what makes discipline effortless. It is not imposed. It is cultivated and internalized. Living by principle also means acting with intention. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the life you are building. Indecision, hesitation, and distraction dissolve when every movement is guided by clear understanding of what is important. The unshakable do not waste energy on trivialities or external validation. They act because it is necessary, because it is aligned with purpose, because it reflects the values they embody. Effort flows naturally, unimpeded by doubt or distraction, because the mind, heart, and body are in harmony. Principled living requires courage. It demands honesty with oneself, the willingness to face discomfort, and the readiness to make choices that may not be popular or easy. But courage grounded in principle is steady. It does not waver with external pressure or fleeting trends. It is a quiet force, persistent and unwavering, that shapes every aspect of life. By embodying your principles, you create a foundation that cannot be shaken by circumstances, by opinion, or by the unpredictable currents of the world. To cultivate this, practice consistency in alignment with your values, observe your actions carefully, and refine them when they drift from truth. Let integrity guide decisions, let clarity guide effort, and let presence guide every interaction. Discipline becomes invisible when it is lived authentically. It is no longer a burden, but the natural expression of your being. When every action reflects principle, when every habit is rooted in understanding and purpose, unshakable strength emerges naturally. The power of such discipline is quiet yet unstoppable, subtle yet profound, and it carries you through life with balance and grace. Live the principle, act with integrity, and let every moment reflect the discipline within.